Okay, starting in three, two, one. Panel, four pieces of characterization that is necessary for this debate to happen. First of all, Didi is an inexperienced lover. In essence, she's a novice. What this looks like is somebody who hasn't been in a lot of romantic relationships before, hasn't been in a relationship before, most likely. So it then means that she doesn't have maybe all of those characteristics that someone who has been in a relationship with the opposite sex knows about the opposite sex, knows like how they behave, how they are likely to approach relationships, the things they are likely to do. But then secondly, she's aware that Nick is a playboy. So all those arguments that they are going to run about how, oh, he's going to break her heart and then she's going to be devastated and she's going to be depressed and kill herself later on are not going to happen. Those are extremes. You cannot buy those because she's aware of what she's getting into. So worst case scenario, she knows that this is a likely event that could happen at the end of the day. So because of that, she's obviously consenting to that outcome at the end of the day. But then thirdly, Nick actually likes her. As said in the motion, he is drawn to her. So what this means is that another side of extremes, things like, oh, he's going to break her heart and maybe do whatever the worst thing could possibly be to her, is an extreme. They cannot win if they decide to argue that. Because at the end of the day, if you like somebody and you're drawn to that person, you want to act right for that person, even in a casual relationship, you're not going to hurt somebody in the worst way possible when you're attracted to that person. But then fourthly, very important, that Nick is financially stable. My partner is going to come and analyze how this is going to impact Didi at the end of the day. She decides to take this into consideration. Based on all these four characterizations, right, we're going to show you why it is beneficial for Didi to accept this relationship, regardless of any outcomes on their side of the house, right? So first of all, let's talk about the most important thing, right? Why is it important for her to take this relationship? Because here's the thing. We think that on her side of the house, it gives her a necessary experience that she would otherwise not have. Why is this unique? Because they can come and argue and say, oh, she can just get into a relationship with somebody that values her emotionally. Why is it so important for her to get into this relationship with this playboy first? When like the slate is blank, there's no experience at all. Because here's the thing, if you get into a relationship with somebody who's a playboy, you're going to learn all the tricks, all the tips, all the rubbish that they are most likely to do. So when you so you're going to learn that this is how these people behave and this is how they act. So at the end of the day, when you eventually get into a proper relationship with somebody that claims to emotionally value you, you would know if this person is lying to you or simply love bombing you. We think at the end of the day, this is a very unique benefit that they cannot argue against, because they need to show why, if she decides to enter into a relationship with somebody who claims to value her emotionally, she can get this type of benefits because she cannot. But then here's the thing, right? Even if we say, okay, worst case scenario, right? She gets heartbroken and all. Why do we think she should still do it just for the plot of it? Because at the end of the day, heartbreak is not the end of the world. She's somebody that is smart. She's going to be able to pick herself back up. So at the end of the day, their worst case scenario being that, oh, she can get her heart broken and all of that, is not necessarily the end of the world, right? Didi can easily pick herself back up and get into another relationship. But then let's talk about the third thing, right? If they want to argue extremes and say, oh, something bad is going to happen to her during the relationship and all that, it's very important to note that she still has an opt-out mechanism. At the point where this relationship no longer serves her purpose, she can easily leave. So there's nothing tying her down, especially because it's a casual relationship. This is something that you do not get from any proper relationship. Any relationship that is based on emotional values and all of those things forces you to be tied down to that relationship most of the time, because you've invested time, energy, resources. This is a very unique thing you get from only side government, because there's no other relationship where you can easily just pack your things and leave, like a casual relationship. So at the point where she realizes that this playboy doesn't suit her interests anymore, it is so easy for her to pick up her things and leave that relationship. On their side of the house, you are tied down to a relationship that you don't even like, especially in the case of Didi, where she's already inexperienced. So imagine someone that is inexperienced getting into a really, really serious relationship as her first relationship. We think that you do a lot of detriment to her psyche, because at the end of the day, she probably doesn't even understand most of what is happening in that relationship. We think that you hurt her the most on their side of the house. I'll take a point, either team. 3.
Yeah, what don't you think that her inexperience will go against her when it comes to like sex and like
Yeah, So she's in the relationship to learn. Like, that's the whole point. If it's sex, she can easily learn how to do that. That's the whole point of relationship. And playboys will most likely have the best experience to even teach her at the end of the day. We think we are winning on our side of the house. Right. Let's see how we get the most benefits for even her long-term partnerships. Because here's something she values, right? Emotional connection at the end of the day. So if we want her to actually get the benefits from all those emotional connections, it's important for her to start with somebody that can basically ruthlessly, even worst case scenario, right, break her heart and all of that. Why? Because it's very important for her to experience this type of things first, instead of jumping head first into something that is really, really deep. So at the end of the day, when she learns how most playboys operate, their mode of operations and all of that, how they will lie to you, how they will love bomb you, how they'll do all those really bad things to you, we think that when she now decides to get into an actual relationship, she already has that idea of what bad relationships look like. So in her actual relationships, it means that if somebody is not treating her right, she's then able to call that person out and show that she actually already knows it. We think that it's only on our side of the house that you get the most experience for her. You teach her the most at this point in time, right? This is something that she cannot do if she decides to go into a proper relationship first. But then lastly, right, what do we get on that side of the house that is really, really important? We think that she gets to experience the best of both worlds, because this is a relationship that is most likely going to end. My partner will argue that there's a potential for it to like continue, but worst case scenario, right, the relationship ends. We think that it's only on her side of the house that she's most likely going to get the best of both worlds. That is, she's going to experience somebody who doesn't really value emotional connection as much, but she's still going to get all those benefits from that casual relationship. She'll learn about romance, about whatever, sex and all of that. But then secondly, she's most likely going to leave. If they argue that the relationship is going to end, that's a good thing. It's going to end, and then she can find her true love and whatever and live happily ever after. It's only on her side of the house that Didi gets this exclusive benefits of getting the best of both worlds, where she can easily enjoy all that emotional connection that she wants in the future with a more experienced mind. If she decides to step into a proper relationship now, she's most likely going to be used. Imagine she gets into the wrong relationship and that person doesn't actually value her and is just lying to her and love bombing her. Here she has the consent. She's aware that this is what is happening. At the end of the day, she's voluntarily going into this and doing it of her own volition. She knows that this is likely going to happen. So all those arguments about it going to be like the worst thing she has ever done in her life is probably not going to fly, because she knows exactly what she's getting into. We win from OG.
2, 1, go. Firstly, piece of rebuttal to opening government. I think that when they talk about, say, it's very important that you get experience, and this is the only way you're able to get experience, given that she's an inexperienced individual in terms of sexual fantasies or all those kinds of stuff, it's very problematic. The reason why you can't buy that case from opening government and PM is because of two things. One, it's not mutually exclusive. The reason why this is so is because you have access to all these kinds of things already existing within status quo. By virtue of being exposed or living in a liberalistic world, it means that all these kinds of things are portrayed in probably places like, say, like pop culture or books or media, constantly putting this on your face, because it's a constant struggle. It's a constant struggle with society, and also like society for all these kinds of things like popping up on your media platforms or on your algorithms and all those kinds of things. It's very then problematic. Like, they don't show the uniqueness of like the exclusivity of that. But secondly, I think that even if we want to buy them and their best case scenario, the reason why that can still work, right, is because of the diverse nature and the diverse, like, different sexual preferences that individuals have. I'm unsure, or I'm unlikely to buy their case, because when they say, oh, you're able to get experience, the experience that you get with him isn't the same experience. It's unlikely that other people would have the same sexual preferences or sexual fantasies, or other partners that you're most likely going to interact with in the future are going to have those same preferences at the end of the day, which means that case cannot necessarily stand within their side of the house. But then let's go on to like our positive matter. Firstly, what does this actor necessarily look like? One, I think that this individual are most likely indoctrinated by certain values and also certain principles within that is able to like shape their life, and also that they derive happiness from. It looks like, say, they are probably like buy into religious beliefs and all those kinds of things, and that's the reason most likely why they are able to like hold these kinds of value systems at the end of the day. But secondly, it's that. But secondly, yeah, you like the reason why this is true is because secondly, we live in a liberalistic world. But two, people have too much rights existing. Yeah, so it looks like say like. But secondly, we think that people have too much rights existing. So it looks like say like the idea that you can do whatever you want with your body. It's something that is constantly existing within society. It's very important that these individuals have unique principles and also unique values that they align with at the end of the day. But thirdly, I think this individual is most likely, because the motion says they are intellectually driven. It means that she's a career woman, so she doesn't necessarily have to limit herself or probably be like buy into him because of things like monetary value, like opening government wants to clamor for. We think that given she's an intellectual individual, it means she has the capacity to be independent and also cater for herself. Like they need to prove why that otherwise isn't existent within their world. The motion literally says that. But then it means if she's an intellect, she literally has the capacity to engage with things like say the job market and all those kinds of things. Yeah. But then secondly, what's the best thing for the actor in terms of incentive analysis? One, how it affects her identity. I think that when she actively takes part in this particular act, what it does is that we think that she has, this individual as an actor, she has actively taken part in certain activities. She has probably conformed to certain rules, probably certain religious texts, probably certain moral value that she's ascribed to, which has shaped her identity and how she's viewed in society and how she also views herself. We think that self-preservation becomes outed within their world, which is something that is very problematic because it's immoral for you. What it then does is that it delegitimates every action that she has taken to preserve herself in that sort of way. You make those actions illegitimate and immoral. You make those particular actions immoral as an actor. We think that in principle is very problematic because literally this individual has literally denied herself of all those pleasures on the basis of those things. But secondly, is that there are certain red lines that people don't want to cross. Yeah, so it's the reason why people have moral values at the end of the day. We think this actor, this is the red line for her, and this is why she shouldn't cross it. But secondly, on association, we think on the principle of association, we think that people opt into relationship and interactions with other people based on things like say same ideologies, same principles, same values, yeah, and all those kinds of things. That's how they're able to form communities and have mutual understanding and also mutual benefits at the end of the day, and not people munching off of other individuals without necessarily creating certain benefits for them at the end of the day. We think that this particular action goes against that principle of association that exists within our world, and it's very harmful because she doesn't benefit in any way necessary that is harmful. But in principle, the reason why it's even more unjustified to exist is because human dignity is violated. Given that you go against your own self-ideology and your own self-principle that you've conformed to for a long period of time for just one individual, it becomes very problematic to exist within that particular world. Or take your POI.
The whole religious thing has no basis. There's nowhere in the Ephesians slide that says this comes from the precepts of religion. It surely be a matter of self.
You're not listening to the analysis. The analysis isn't basically about religion. It's literally about the actor and why they probably have preserved themselves in certain ways. Like literally, the debate isn't about religion. But lastly is on abuse. Yeah. I think that firstly, the reason why this is more likely to happen on their side and why she's going to be exposed to that is because one, it makes the actor then more vulnerable to accepting tendency or probably harmful tendency and harmful behaviors from him, which is very problematic. It means that in most instances, she's more accepting towards all those kinds of bad behaviors and more receptive towards it. The reason why this is true is because he's someone, the info site already says it, he's someone who is more aware, more sexually proactive, which means that the likelihood of him perceiving her as inadequate and unable to fulfill his sexual preferences is something that is constantly going to plague her. So she's always telling herself, are you able to meet the standards of this individual, given he's someone that is well versatile in these forms of relationship and all those kinds of things. We think that in principle, always constantly going against or insulting your self-worth and also condemning yourself to that form of mental torture is something that in principle is not justified to happen. But I think we're going to weigh up the team that wins today's debate is simple. The weighing is simple. The way this individual is able to gain happiness, which is the most important thing, is within our world when she doesn't opt into relationship that necessarily would end up in heartbreak or all those kinds of things, and probably going against herself. People share love, right? So it therefore means that he's inclined to her. If you're inclined to somebody, you have chemistry with somebody, it therefore means that, oh, you want to always buy things for this person. It therefore means that, oh, you always want to spend on this person. It therefore means that, oh, you always want to cater for this person, right? So what that looks like is that because he's financially stable, right, it therefore means that she would have access to his money, she would have access to his resources, she would have access to his connection, and more importantly, because she's intellectually driven, because she's smart, it therefore means that she's going to utilize these resources, these connections, to the best way possible, right? Why exactly is this point important? Because we need to understand that this is an act of motion. We need to be able to do what exactly caters Didi in this debate and in this motion. The only way by which we do that is that we make sure, and one of the ways by which we do that, by which we cater for Didi, is to make sure that she already has a financial stability, because that is the only way by which she continues to progress in life. The only way by which we do that is to be able to link her up with Nick, that gives her a very likely chance that she's going to have access to these financial resources, that's going to be able to take care of her in the future, give her access to connections. She can use her intellectually driven mind to be able to use those connections for the betterment of herself as she goes on. Secondly, right, and what exactly do we also need to understand in today's debate? We already established that not all relationships, because they are not long-term, does not mean that they are worthless or does not mean that they are valueless, right? Now, panel, we've already established that there is chemistry between these people, right? So it therefore means that Didi likes Nick, they both like each other. So it therefore means that, oh, they share a connection, right? Just because it will not last forever, just because there is a tendency actually that it will not last forever, doesn't necessarily make it worthless, right? So Didi accepting this relationship, right, and that the value of the relationship is not necessarily in how long term it's going to be. We need to understand that celebrations come, achievements come, and then they go. Because you benefited something, because there is term, does not necessarily make that whole achievement not even exist in the first place. Even if this relationship is casual, and even if it is going to be able to gain experience, she's also going to be able to gain knowledge, she's also going to understand what exactly chemistry would look like. I've already established that she's also going to be able to have a tendency to experience financial benefits. Just because these things are going to be short term, or just because these things are going to be short term, does not necessarily mean that, oh, the relationship did not make sense anymore when she already had access to these things, right? Why is this important? Because there is a need for us to be able to shape how exactly relationships should be prioritized in today's debate. Relationships should not be recognized based on how long you had that relationship. Relationships should be able to be focused more on what exactly it is that you were able to enjoy from that relationship. If chemistry already exists, it's already rich, she's going to be able to understand what exactly that chemistry will look like, financial resources will look like, she's going to be able to develop experience. My partner already tells you a lot about experience. She's also going to be able to get experience from this debate, from this guy and this relationship. Then we truly believe that this the whole entirety of this relationship will actually do her in her best favor, right? And let's also understand that there is even a potential for him to fall in love with her. That's basically how relationships work, panel. Like some people basically come up and say that, oh, we don't want to do anything too serious, so we just want to do something small. And then the next thing, right, there is already a whole lot of, oh, we're beginning to fall in love, or we're beginning to have connections, we're beginning to experience different things. Like, that's exactly how it works, right? But panel, realize that this is not even our biggest case, but there is a need for us to actually examine that and take care of that in today's debate, right? Chemistry already exists between them. That is literally how the relationship starts. If you already established that this chemistry already exists, it therefore means that there is a potential for the two of them to fall in love, have long-term relationship. So even every single thing that they advocate for how a serious relationship should look like, based on the longevity of it, if that relationship is already going to be long-term, all these benefits naturally begin to fall in place, right? And then finally, right, we already talk about how the partner already talks about how Didi can explore emotional maturity, right, and exploration, right? Partner, we truly believe that Didi's ideologies, all her identities, like these people say, all comes from theory, comes from limited experience, does not actually come from her being able to, experience these things, does not actually come from, oh, her knowing that, oh yes, she has experienced and this is why it is wrong, right? It only makes sense, right,
if you learn one thing the whole of your life, you begin to grow at a certain point, and then you're like, oh, this thing that I was made to believe when I was little, why should I keep on doing it just because of that's how I was when I grew? I should be able to make changes. I should be able to conduct experiments. I should be able to get relationships. I should be able to do different things to test these principles, test these identities, test these theories, test these values. Know that, oh, this theory that I grew up with, is it actually beneficial to me? Is it actually what I want? Does it actually help in shaping me as an actor in today's debate, right? Now, why is this important, right? Because real emotion does not just come from identity or who you are. Real emotion comes from experience. Being able to not avoid what people think is scary, right? We advocate for Didi because we provide for her a lot of things in today's debate: experience, financial resources, and every single thing that you will not get from this side of the house.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. The only thing you get from opening government is that this woman wants money. This woman will get like some experience, and this woman will basically learn a lot about how to live in relationships, right? No analysis as to why all of these things are actually important to this woman, because we think from OO is that in 21st century, any woman who is intellectually driven means that she truly believes in educating herself. She believes in being independent. She believes in having self-dignity and self-worth. She believes in standing on her own feet, and all of these things mean a lot to her. That's why she's even surviving in schools and being intellectually driven in the first place, right? We think that that's why the only relationship that she wants in the first place is emotional. They did not prove why this woman would want to be a sugar baby at the end of the day, because that's what these people are basically trying to say, that this woman is a sugar baby and she'll be better off at the end of the day, right? But then the second argument that they get is, oh, she will end up learning some specific tricks, right? Number one, what incentive does she have to want to enter a relationship based on wanting to learn all of these things? No analysis on that. Number two, they don't even prove why these tricks are going to be important in her life on the long term. Thirdly, they do not even prove that why is this exclusive to Nick, because you have to prove why a person who can have emotional connection can also teach you all of these tricks. In fact, they will be more patient with you to be able to teach you and grow with you. You do not get any exclusivity from that in that regard, right? But then the most important thing is that if they are preparing this woman for future relationships, right? Casual relationships are casual because they do not teach responsibility. What this means is that to a large extent, she is not learning any sense of responsibility to be able to sustain her future relationships that actually require responsibility. That means all of their cases are completely unreasonable in this debate, right? But then last important thing to note is that she's probably at the peak of her career at this point in time, because she's in the Middle Ages and all of that, right? But this means that this is not the time for her to experiment with her ideologies. Once she is stable, she can do that, right? If they agree that she is not stable enough and she might need some money and all of that, right? We think from our side she is independent enough and she has the capacity to be able to be stable in the future at least, right? We think because of all of these reasons, she does not need a man who is not capable of taking care of her for a very long time and is not emotionally capable of taking care of her, right? But the funny thing that they say is that because she consents to it, that's why it's fine. First problem with that is that in first line says that she's still deliberating. So where is that consent coming from? You don't get any analysis, right? But then even if you don't buy that, right? Consent does not mean that the harm is not going to happen. So that I consented to come to KDO. I know I might not break, but I still came. And if I don't break, I will still be hurt. So that harm not happening does not necessarily happen in their world. They're out of today's debate, right? But then they say that she will most likely know whether the future relationships are toxic or not. Like there is no analysis as to that. It's just like a line, right? But then there are so many other ways that men can use to manipulate you and be in toxic relations and all of that, right? But then lastly, she's not a dumb human being. She might know how to read people. She does not need to be in a toxic relationship just to learn what toxic relationships look like, right? OG is completely out of today's debate, right? But then panel, there are several reasons why she might end up liking him, right? Maybe he's manipulative. Maybe he just looks good. Maybe he treats her right for his own selfish reasons. Maybe it's only temporary likeness that she has, because the info site does not say that she's deeply in love with him, right? She just likes him to some extent, right? At a point in time where she gives into having a casual relationship with him, what it does is it breaks down all the work that she has done in her life for a very long time, like the identity she has built for herself just for one person, right? all that heartbreak still happens, that she will most likely she will most likely, because of which she will suffer at the end of the day, right? But then panel, understand, even if she goes into this relationship, how terrible it's going to be for her, because there's a lot of power imbalance already existing because of the framing OG gives, right? Because this guy has a lot of experience, he most likely knows more, so he'll force her to follow his lead. That means that he's most likely going to be controlling her because of the power imbalance that exists. This basically leads to two things. One, she's most likely going to deviate from her goal, because now she will more likely be engaged with him instead of focusing on herself and being able to stand on her feet. That deviates her from her initial goals and the identity she was trying to build for herself, the most important thing that is for an intellectually driven woman in 21st century. But the second reason is that this guy is most likely going to be manipulative. Why? Because one, he's not even compromising with this woman in the first place when it comes to relationships. But then two, she's literally changing herself for him. But then thirdly, he literally has more power over her. This gives more chances for him to be manipulative, right? But then why is it most likely that she will not opt out of it? But before that, I'll take you. Extension.
Yeah, I don't think he's manipulating. The guy is always to tell you he likes other women. So maybe he's dealing with lust, but not manipulation.
Yeah, that's why I gave you 3 reasons why he's most likely going to be manipulative, right? I've already given it, I'm sorry. But then, panel, why is it she's most likely not going to opt out of it, even if she's not happy in the relationship, right? Because it's the principle of foot in the door, right? It means that one, you rationalize your initial investment because you keep on telling yourself that maybe it was worth it, and so you still be in that relationship. Two, you feel committed because you have made initial investment and you don't want it to go into waste, right? But thirdly, it's most likely going to be cognitive dissonance at the end of the day, because you're very skeptical about whether you should leave or not, weighing your harms and all that, and you're going to wait until a lot of harm is done, right? All that sacrifice she is going to do is going to be very problematic for her at the end of the day, because of the long-term harms that I've proven to you, right? At the end of the panel, we have to look at whether this harm is irreversible. From the analysis Hassana and I have done, it shows that the emotional impact it's going to have on her is going to be terrible, especially when it comes to romantic relationships. Why? Because this is her first time. Your first experience being bad leaves a long-lasting impact on you. It's proven in education, it's proven in terms of food, it's proven in terms of places as well. So if your first experience gives you trauma, for example, when we went to Togo, our first experience gave us trauma. Every time we go to Togo, it will remind us of those bad things. Same thing happens in relationships at this point in time. Because of this woman, long-term harm exists, right? But then these people did not give extension. They did not flag their extension in POI, so you cannot credit them. But anyway, alternatives exist for this lady, right? As long as alternatives exist, she does not have to risk her future for some guy who does not buy her ideologies. We do not think at any point in time there are alternatives existing. She can like a lot of other people unless they are able to prove that this girl only likes this guy for specific reasons. They cannot win this debate. We're extremely proud to protect this woman.
3, 2, 1. I don't think it's all times that love comes perfect. Love comes with a knight in shining armor. Sometimes it comes walking on red flags and walking on eggshells, and it's what you take away that really matters. And I'm doing this for all the single women who are very intellectual and want a chance at least experiencing what could be. Let's start with this. There are 2 main problems in today's debate. One, the problem with opening government. The problem with opening government is this: in as much as these guys say they do not mechanize, all their impacts are extremely uncertain on how good or important they are. One, they tell you that you learn new tricks that you may use. The problem is we don't know whether the next relationship you are going into, that person will use the same old tricks that you would catch them for. But 2, is that something that the next relationship is probably going to be toxic. I don't pray for that for Didi, but I hope that doesn't happen. And they don't prove why that's likely to be the case and why that is important. But 2, they tell us this, that you learn a lot of new styles and whatnot. Maybe that person's preference are also different. They don't still tell us why. And the only thing that they actually see that actually works is the money analysis, and I'll show you why we beat that. These people's problem is that they are too assumptive in today's debates. One, they say there are alternatives. There's nowhere in the motion that says that there's an alternative. Nowhere in the info slide proves that. So I don't know what else they are defending. I'll give you a POI chance and you tell me why that exists. The next thing then that they see is that she cannot opt out. Unfortunately, in relationships, Two people don't need to opt out for the relationship to end. If I break up with you and you don't break up with me, I leave. You can stay there. You are probably dating yourself. No one cares. I really don't get why that opt out thing matters. But even if they still want to cling on to that, it defeats the info slide part that says that the woman is very intelligent and she knows what to do, which means at the point when she knows the love is over and done. I don't know why that is very important. The last thing they say is dignity. Panel, dignity is not only about not allowing yourself to do something. Dignity also occurs in allowing yourself to do something. It's not only at the point where I choose to not go to socials that I am respected as Desmond. When I choose to go there and know people and have fun, I still use my agency. I still use me being me. It's not only when people choose to be conservative and self-preserving. Now let's go to the framing for our debate. One, it's not in every case that it ends bitterly. It may not end on the terms you want, but it doesn't mean it ends badly. For example, people often fall out of love in relationships when they are married, when they marry and have kids. This when you go online and people say on this, because we could no longer see eye to eye on certain frivolous things, although we share kids, we are going each other's way. But two, I think Didi being an intellectual person means she's seen a lot of heartbreaks. She's probably written exams that she's failed. She probably wanted questions that never came true. She probably dealt with death. She's a human being. Every human being on this planet probably deals with death. I don't know who you are and why you are immune to that. I don't know what's the greatest pain than losing someone you love, probably your mom, probably your dad, or etc. Which means you probably have seen this before. The emotion at this guy's side only works when they prove that love is so bad, it hurts you so much, you can no longer live. And I don't know how deep that thing is, already knowing you are going to something that is casual. But three, we deal with something. You know why this case is very, very unique, panel? It's because for the first time in any relationship, you already know the end from the beginning. You know this would not last. You are actively you're actively consenting to something you know will not end well. When you know that something wouldn't end well by your starting, what do? You love those moments you're with the person. You savor those moments. You know this won't end well, so you prepare for the end, which means it can even be on your terms. Maybe after you finish taking his money, you go away. What does that mean? You prime yourself for such heartbreaks. An analogy is like a country that prepares itself for sanctions. When the sanctions do come, they do not affect them much and they do walk away. But fourthly, what I like to say, there are narratives. See, when someone leaves you, you could tell themselves, see, it's her loss. I'm the best person in the advice. I'm very intelligent. I'm very thoughtful. I give gifts. etc. I'm very generous. And I'm very good at pleasuring people, right? So it probably his loss that or her loss that person walked away. You could also tell yourself and give yourself delusions, thinking that they're the cruel people, etc. It depends on how she primes herself. What is all this to prove? At the end of the day, the worst thing we can get is heartbreak. And when that heartbreak occurs, all these 5 reasons prove that she'll be ready for that. Let's start with the first thing. Her interest and what aligns with her. If you read the info slide well, there's one thing that is very clear. Didi is a very confused person. Someone who is very intellectual, which they say probably means she puts a lot into her work, puts a lot into her academics. She's a career woman. What's the body definition of a career woman? Someone who goes to work all the time, wants to climb the social ladder, which means she probably works overtime. She doesn't have time for friends and family. But this same person wants emotional attachments, wants clingy stuff. What does that mean? There's a glaring confusion even in the info slide about this person. What does that show here? The best thing for this person to do at this point is going for someone who is casual. He's not always lovey-dovey. He's not someone who always cling on to you. What does that mean? It's only in a pair of them that Didi gets a chance to actually benefit both worlds, where she gets someone to yap to and still get someone who gives her the space and ability for her to continue her work, for her to get away from society, etc. It's only at this point where she actually benefits from both worlds. Okay, Oji.
Yeah. Your case on like she going to be happy and all this kind of stuff cannot work, because the only reason people are obligated to have to give you responsibility is when like you have committed relationships.
I think that was a very confused PY, honestly. Maybe Henaku could answer. The second thing we'll talk about is the symmetrization of the pain. Panel, if you think that loving someone, if you think that someone leaving you when you've already loved them hurts, think of loving someone so much and the person doesn't give a shit back and the person never cares. What does that look like? One, you are probably invested in the person already. You told your family members about this person. I have a crush. You tell your friends. You stalk his social media. You go to see what he likes, what he posts, etc. Your friends probably even call him by you by his name already. You're already having daydreams. How many kids you give birth to, where you live, where you have vacations, etc. Looking at this person, knowing you've never been able to make the move. Hindsight is always 2020. What does that mean? You always think what could have been, what family could I have had, all those decisions decisions that you made that made you not take that step to even try loving the person becomes thing that hates you in the long run. Your self-worth, your ability to wake up and look in the mirror and be a confident person that you're able to say the things that make your heart beat, the things that make you love people. It is the things that hurt you in the long run. But the next extension here we'll talk about is the self-blame that occurs, the constant obsession. He's the one that got away. You be those people who go in front of cameras on YouTube telling us every day about someone you love who never loved you back. The pain of seeing them with someone, when you see them with someone or see them to social media, it's almost equal to heartbreak. You always think about what could have been and what could have hurt you. But the last thing are the benefits here, panel. See, these guys talk about financial benefits. That being to go back home after this debate into the arms of someone, even if you don't have money, just for them to cuddle you, tell you everything will be okay, even if it is momentarily, prevent you from a lot of things, the sadness you'd have, the depression you may be in. All these things make you think and what could have been. Even if nothing works, we use the social circles to get other specs and marry them. Proud to propose.
My speech in 3, 2, 1. I think the whole government bench doesn't really understand what a casual relationship looks like, because it's like they want to get a casual relationship and a romantic relationship at the same time. They talk about cuddling, they talk about the person giving you money, they talk about the person buying you flowers. That is not things that you get from a casual relationship, especially from somebody such as Nick, who is a playboy who only wants to fuck you and leave you and like go with like wherever he's going. These people like are necessarily just trying to form a situationship where you try to get both aspects of this like spectrum at the same time. That's not what is on the table right now. What is on the table is a casual relationship where you just sleep with each other and go your ways. And that is what he's proposing to Didi, and Didi doesn't like. We as what are we? CEO, we oppose that. Why do we think CG falls out of today's debates? What did they bring to you like today? They talk about how Didi is very confused and she's like she's very confused because we see that in the info. Like right now she's conflicted. She doesn't know what to do, whether to follow Nick or to like prioritize herself, since she's like a career woman and she wants to climb up the career ladder and all those things that all the opening government people say. We think that they say that even if she's confused, at least she should just do this and give herself the dignity of opting into this choice where she's actively making the decision to go and break her heart, because she knows that Nick is a playboy from the start. So she's going knowing that he's a playboy, so at the end I'm going to get brokenhearted. So she knows this brokenhearted thing is going to happen to her either ways, but then she's still going to opt into it because she wants the feeling. I think in the end he's basically saying the same thing that the OG people came to say, because they all talk about how at least you're going in for the experience, and that is something that is good enough to go for. Do you want to ask a POI?
Yes.
Okay.
But no, I don't think people just go and shake hands and start having sex. They'll probably ask you how was your day, how do you feel? All those things, those little things are the things that are very important. You can't just say it's casual sex and they go and shake hands and match starts and that's all.
And the reason why that is irrelevant is because in the end, what Didi wants is emotional commitment or emotional attachment. When you come and ask her how her day was and then you fuck her, probably what she wants to talk about is what her future looks like, her dreams, her hopes, her aspirations. She wants to talk to somebody about what she plans for her life. Maybe she wants 3 kids, she wants 2 kids, she doesn't want children. All these things are not things that you are like most likely going to get from somebody who just wants to fuck you. Most likely it's just going to be like foreplay. Oh, how was your day? And then they'll start flirting and then they're going to fuck. That is something that is not what inherently Didi wants. Realize that she's inexperienced and she's also conflicted. Inexperienced means she's never probably had proper sex or like any romantic relationship in her life. Why this is then going to be bad for her is because Nick is a playboy. All he does is fuck you and leave. Like no matter what, he's going to fuck you and leave you. Let's realize that her inexperience is going to play against her. It's going to hurt her more than like benefit her, like and these people talk about, because at least she's going to get the feeling and what's not. Realize that she's inexperienced. In a case where you are actively going into a casual relationship with someone as experienced as Nick, he's going to be so good, like she's most likely going to get attached because she's never really had any proper relationship in her life before. Realize why she's going to get attached. Like they say themselves, he's going to ask you, how was your day? How was this? How was that? That is going to give her a warped view of what like relationships are supposed to look like, or like it's going to not necessarily show her what exactly is going on, it's going to blur the lines of a casual relationship and a romantic relationship for her. Because as they continue to have sex, as they continue to ask each other how their day was, or do those preliminary sex talk that they do, it is most likely going to make her think that he's falling in love with her, like these people talk about. And that is something that is bad, because Nick is never going to fall in love with you. He's a playboy. But in the case where they constantly keep fucking and they constantly keep doing all these things, it is something that is going to lead her on to think that, oh, he's going to end up falling in love with me, like in the future or something. And that is something that is most likely going to like play against her, because in the end he's going to leave her and hurt her. Your POI.
You cannot argue that she's intellectually driven and still argue that, oh, he's just going to manipulate her and talk her.
I never said he was going to manipulate her. I gave you reasons why. If he's going to continuously be with her and do all these acts with her, it is going to cause emotional like duress and emotional reactions that are something that are going to hurt her in the long run. Now, to what OG says and why they are out of today's debate, like everybody is saying, they talk about what's called rich men and becoming a sugar baby, and those are all things that are not going to play out, because in the end she's already an intellectual like woman, she's already career driven, and I don't think what she really wants in a relationship is like flowers and money and things. What she values, like the info slide tells us, is emotional attachment, emotional commitment. It's that she wants somebody who she can trust, somebody she can respect. In the case where it's a casual relationship, that means that Nick is free to go and fuck somebody else. That is going to cause like jealousy, like all these constant self-questioning as to why he can't stay with me, why he can't be with me. We think that there is a very dangerous line to toe for Didi, because she wouldn't be able to tell where the lines cross or where the lines blur, because she doesn't have any experience whatsoever, and Nick is the one bringing all the cards to the table. These people claim that, oh, Nick likes her, so he's not going to hurt her. It's false, because no matter what he does, she's going to get hurt. Therefore, as long as it's a casual relationship that doesn't align with her whole, I want a good relationship in my life, and I want somebody I can like I don't know, stay with and respect, and I will come to you. Okay, let me ask you.
Yeah, I think you don't mechanize a lot of things. You say Nick will get it. There are 5 lines of argumentation of the uniqueness of the situation and priming yourself. There's like literally nothing that you analyze.
I tell you how. Because she's inexperienced and she has literally no prior like MA in her life, it's very not necessarily he's going to hurt her like with intent. It's the actions that are going to lead to the harm, because they are constantly doing all these frolicking. It's most likely going to end up that way, because she's going to read intent into it. She's inexperienced. She's not really going to know that, oh, you fuck me after, you give me aftercare. That is like you not liking me, or like that is not. She's most likely going to read extra meaning into things that he's doing casually, but to her she would think it's romantically or like something like that. Now, what do we bring to you as like in today's debate? We think that she shouldn't do this, because like we all know and we all agree, she's somebody who is wanting to climb up the career ladder and wants to like increase her personal growth and things like that. As long as she goes to frolic with Nick, she's going to delay her own personal growth, which is something that she can build on like right now, instead of wasting her time going to get her heart broken and going to suffer, going to learn in like experience that is not even something that is necessarily very important to her. These people talk about how, oh, if you are going to fall in love, the best way is to start on a terrible slate, as in get your heart broken by Nick, and then you can use that as a metric to judge your future relationships. We don't think that is the case, or that is something that Didi should necessarily want for herself, considering that she's somebody who values love, respect, and all these emotional things that come with being in a proper relationship. We think that we way over opening, because we mechanize to you better. Thank you today.
So I begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is assume that every single thing they say is true. And then I'll show you why when you compare both teams, we independently outweigh them. So let's start from opening opposition. Opening opposition proves to you why there is a lot of pain that comes with the relationship. Provided that is true, what opening governments say is that at least even with that pain, you can get access to some benefits, which is the monetary benefits. And this is quite crucial, because what opening opposition points to you is that these benefits are not necessary, because you can get them independent of that particular relationship, meaning that the pain of itself is a bad thing. The reason why there is still a problem with their side is because they don't show you how there is no pain if you don't exist in that relationship. Because this is quite important, because if there is equally pain in their world and there is equally pain in our world, then that is when the benefits that opening government is talking about then becomes relevant, because in their world there would be pain, in our world there would be pain. What Desmond does to prove to you why there will be pain is on a couple of levels. One, He shows you why there is a certain idea that there is someone that you like, but you don't have access to that particular person, and that person is having casual relationship with another person. So there is the propensity for you to have gotten that person, but you never got access to it. What that essentially means is that you are most likely going to feel pain in that regard. But he goes a step further to talk to you about how there is self-blame. That the reason why you are now feeling that pain is because of the decision that you actively made. So it means that you consistently blame yourself in that regard. What that essentially proves to you is that there is equally pain in their world, and there might equally be pain in our world. But at least in our world, we are able to get access to some of the benefits that opening government is saying, and that is when their benefits become relevant in that regard. So that outweighs, like that puts us in a position that outweighs them in that regard. But I think on the second level is that they fail to recognize what the comparative is. Because just because you are not in a casual relationship doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're a happy person that gets a romantic relationship and life can move on. And for quite a couple of reasons, is that there are certain nice young men that are actually very hard to find. So you might go out searching and you might not even find someone in the first place. But then secondly, you can find the guy, you can like the guy, but the guy won't like you back. Or thirdly, some of these romantic guys that you would find might probably not even be handsome. Or fourthly, you might even end up with another playboy. But the difference is that this playboy won't tell you he's a playboy. At least our playboy will tell you that he's a playboy. Now let's move on into more things that is being said, that were said in the debate, right? So let's start from closing opposition, and I'll engage opening opposition. So, closing opposition. They say that in a casual relationship, you don't cuddle. That is only in a romantic relationship. I think you do cuddle. You do a little bit of cuddling, do a little bit of fondling, then the sex happens. So I think cuddling happens in our world in that regard. But I think there are specific things that must precede the sexual relationships. Certain essential things like foreplay questions that will stimulate the mood are all of these conversations that happen in a casual relationship. But I think second things like post-sex cigarettes. So like you are done with the sex, you sit there, you look at the view, you smoke some cigarettes. All of these things are things that are part of casual relationships, meaning that you are still able to get access to these things. Unless they can prove that Nick is a psychopath. If Nick comes around to have sex and he sees this girl crying, he's most likely going to ask her questions because he's not a madman. Even though he's a playboy, he's still a human being. Meaning that these are unique things that you can still get. That is not to say that this is the equivalent of a romantic relationship, because Desmond points to what a romantic relationship specifically is in today's context. It is certain things like buying flowers for the girl, consistently having to consistently talk with the girl and all of these things. Every day you are sending I love you messages and all of these things. It is so much to be in a romantic relationship. But it is quite important because of what Alia herself says. Alia says that she's a career-driven woman. It means that for a career-driven woman, there's a specific way where you can actually get both things. And that's what Dorvlo tells you. You can focus on your career and still have access to a relationship that is not going to be detrimental. It is important that that relationship is a casual relationship, because if it is a romantic relationship, it derails your career as a person. So provided that there are two incentives that exist here. There is an incentive that says that you want to be a career-driven woman. There's another incentive that says that you like the person. In our world, you are able to get access to both of these worlds without necessarily compromising on other things. Before I continue, closing, opening.
Listen, propensity or potential harm does not obligate you to take that harm actively. But then, experience of this painful relationship is actually going to harm you. The idea of potential relationship is not going to harm you anyway.
It is going to harm you because you like the guy, and then you see other people with the guy, and you're probably going to feel jealous. Like, this is not a response fundamentally. But I'll go more into their conversation, right? So, what are the specific things that you get from Alia? So first of all, she says that this person is a manipulative person, and Dorvlo asked a POI. Now, this is an honest guy. If he was a manipulative person, he probably won't tell you this is a casual relationship that he wants. He's probably not a manipulative person. The second thing she then says is that, well, the other reason why this person might be a manipulative person is because of power imbalance. But Alia is the same person that says that this person is a strong, independent, and smart woman who can see when other guys are using her. She can see when other guys are using her, but she can't see when Nick is using her. I don't see why, like the case is contradictory inherently in of itself. I don't think that they can place over us in that regard. Now let's talk about closing opposition, because there are a couple of problems with their cases. The first thing they say is that, well, this person is most likely going to get attached. That is the girl in question. Well, we could equally say that Nick can also get attached. And like at the end of the day, because you need to prove why she is going to get attached, especially when Dorvlo spends a lot of the time telling you how, when you know how the relationship is going to end, you can prepare yourself. And if you don't believe what Dorvlo is saying, believe what Alia is saying, that she's a smart person, meaning that she has the capacity to be able to prepare herself in that regard, and she's an independent person that can be able to do these things in that regard. It essentially means that all of the things that closing opposition wants to preach to you in today's debate is something that does not actually happen. The second thing they say is that in casual relationships, you don't get access to certain things like money. It's only romantic relationships. Even if you think that is true, that is opening government arguments. Because Dorvlo, in his final part of his speech, tells you how you can meet some of his other rich friends. If it doesn't go well, you have met another rich, nice Nick who might not be a playboy. So it means that there is a win on our side. And that is different from what they are saying about how this person can get access to money and all of these things. We tell you that in the long game, you can still be able to get access to somebody who is probably not a playboy, but is still something. I mean, it is something that we cannot say for certain, but at least it's a likelihood that exists on our side that never exists on their side in that regard. I think it is then important when you are doing the way up. In the opening half, we are able to get both of two worlds. But even if you are not able to get both of two worlds, I went a step further to show you why the specifics of their case have tensions in their case. And I showed you specific things that Dorvlo tells you and benefits that you can get. I don't know what closing government case specifically is. I don't think they are in today's debate in that regard. That's closing opposition. I'm proud to be CG.
In 3, 2, 1. Panel. IQ and EQ are two different things. She might be like intellectually driven, which means that she has like a very good intellectual quotient, but then she has very bad emotional intelligence, because they tell you that she does not have any experience emotionally, does not have experience with sex, etc. Does not have experience with relationship. So it's very okay that she's confused emotionally. She doesn't know whether she should be in a relationship with Nick or not. I think that is very much like okay. But the point where CG says that because she's so confused, she just enters the casual relation. That's when we have a problem with this. The fact that I am confused about something doesn't mean that I should go into it. The fact that I'm confused about wearing a white shoe doesn't mean that I should just get up and wear a white shoe. And the fact that I wear a white shoe or wear a black shoe. So she has the choice to decide not to be in the casual relationship. The fact that she doesn't know that she goes doesn't mean that she just up and go into the relationship with me because she's a confused person. That particular case takes them online. Next thing they say is that she always think about like she self-blame herself. I should have done this. Seeing with other people, she will feel pain. The pain will also exists if she leaves you. Why? At a point where she, when I see why black pain is worse than our pain, right? At a point where she leaves this particular person, she's going to be like, so what really makes her understand that she's going to be attached, but she's like emotionally like vulnerable, so she's going to be attached in the relationship. The first sexual experience, she's never experienced it before, so it's really like the best thing of her life. She's going to be attached to a particular person that when she sees other people, she chose. As soon as the relationship ends, she's going to blame herself that I shouldn't have actually gone to the relationship in the first place because I knew like it was going to be casual. She will blame herself more than when she had not started the relationship, because suppose I see with somebody else on TikTok, I see somebody else on IG, I don't care at all. Let them be. I can always go to it. I can always go to it and move on with that. She feels pain for going relationship with him. When the relationship ends, she sees him with somebody else. That is not felt more than whatever she feels before she goes. Because she wants to make you understand that. Suppose she sees him with somebody else, starts to blame herself. Am I not better enough for him to stay with me? Am I not good enough for him to stay with me? Or like I am rich, I am self-based, I am this, I am that. Why do people stay with me? In that particular kind of like self-blame, it's much more worse than the self-blame that they push in the world. Because at the point where she starts to blame she starts to question herself who she is, not blame like what she is. At that point, it affects her more than when she starts to blame herself for not entering the relationship with him. I mean, like if I'm not in a relationship with somebody and I blame myself for it, I don't feel like I can always move on than making myself than losing my integrity and dignity and then being in a relationship with the person. Right? That thing is problem. Take it out. The next thing that he says is that she could tell herself things to motivate herself after the breakup and feel better. Pano, that is where that's it. Like, oh, I am happy. I can always say I am happy. I am a happy person, but then deep down, I am sad. Deep down, I am depressed. That was something. It's not so. It's when you just tell yourself, oh, I am better. I am a good person. I can get a better person. Like that does not actually solve. It's like you cannot see that. You cannot tell yourself better things to motivate yourself and make yourself feel better. And I can think that it's their case. Like, the next thing is that she says that, oh, it's going. The business is going to meet her. The thing that she's going to meet her the boys rich friends, right? You think that it's weird. And a casual relationships is not a meeting. You didn't go around going out and meeting the person's friends. You don't meet his friends. You don't have to meet anybody in the person. I don't see that I don't let me to introduce you to his friends. Oh no, you know people that when they love you so much, not when they make you their friend see you, not when they make their friend that you are the person I like. Like a person you see that friend, the person that they are a casual person, they're just you see what if you go to them because they know that I was season in a other relationship, I took you serious as a person. Yeah, because it's very cheap and you cannot be with it. And that was their case is for like